Shall we begin?
Hey there, boys and girls. Bob Kearns, the unsung photographer. And I usually like to talk about technique or unusual film cameras or film and all kinds of different things in these videos. But today I'm actually going to talk strictly about gear and digital gear as a matter of fact. This is an Olympus EM1 Mk2. Probably one of the longest, windiest names of any camera ever made. I'm not crazy about the name. I did not name the camera. However, I will tell you, this is probably the finest mirrorless digital camera I have ever owned. Why is that, you ask? I hear you. Well, it's not a brand new camera. It's been out a couple of years now. However, just a couple of months ago, they had a firmware upgrade to version 3.0, which basically made it a new camera. The autofocus is amazing. It added new features. It was just a spectacular upgrade to where the camera is almost like it was brand new. It's very, very impressive. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but certainly you've seen some of the older cameras I have. There's a lot of Nikon gear involved, and I shot Nikon professionally for many, many years, even back into the film days. So my latest Nikon was the D800, a venerable, tried and true piece of gear that has served me very well. And in no way would I demean this camera. It's a 36 megapixel full frame sensor. It just does beautiful work. It is not the super fastest sports camera. I think it does like 4 frames a second, something like that. But I don't do a lot of that shooting, so it never really bothered me. It's just a really nice, robust camera. It has the requisite 2 slots in here. A CF card and a SD card. It's just been a robust and wonderful companion. However, let me point out something. It rather looks like Olympus compared to the moon. It is easily twice the size of the OMD Mk2. The OMD Mk2 can do up to, you ready for this? If you don't use your autofocus, if you have something that's planar, that's moving along, you can do up to 60 frames, that's what I said, 60 frames a second. That's 60 frames a second. Stills, full raw, full resolution stills. Holy crap, that's amazing. So if you're looking for a high frame rate, this little one kicks butt. It's a 20 megapixel sensor, which is, well, 20 point something. It's very middle of the road as far as that goes, and perfectly serviceable. And we can show you, we're going to be showing some pictures some along the way here. I just want to give you an idea of the scale here of how these things work. So I brought a scale just for giggles. Now this is the strap that comes with it. It's just the same as every other strap that comes with every other camera, except this camera's so light, it's usable. I just don't lose it. I found this cloth one with some cool skulls on it. It sort of tempted my biker soul, and I really dig that. Oh, by the way, Olympus, if you're listening, or anybody knows anybody from Olympus, I need a new hat. This is still saying Nikon, and though I still love my Nikons, it's time for an Olympus hat, so I'm waiting for one in the mail. I would really appreciate it. Okay, that's my my ask for the day. So I brought this little bugger out here. I'm going to move this strap out of the way. I'm going to set this here, and we're going to turn it on. Turning on the scale. There's no tear. All right, and we're going to weigh in ounces because we're in the United States here and we're too stupid to be metric apparently. I'm going to weigh this. The only extra gear is my jerk stopper here. And this is just the camera, it has a battery in it. That's 35.8 ounces. There's no lens. 35.8. Let me hold up the jerk stopper to see if that's it. Well, 35.6. So this is 0.2 ounces. So 35.6 ounces. Very nice. It has both memory cards in it. This is the Olympus OMD EM1 Mk2. I think for the rest of this video, we're just going to call it the OMD. It is an M1 Mk2, and that shall not change, but that's a bit of a, I don't know. It also has 2 cards, unlike the Nikon Z series, where I don't know why they did that. They have 1 big expensive card. This uses standard SDs. This uses the UHS-2, this is the UHS-1, so all your high-speed stuff you stream to here and you back it up over there. Works good for me. This thing is so weatherproof. I don't want to use the word waterproof because you couldn't, like, I wouldn't put it in the tub, but I've had it out in the rain and it's pretty robust. Let me tell you, I'm very impressed. Okay, so let's do ourselves a little favor. Let's take this cool strap off. I think I paid $7 for this on Amazon, so go look them up. It's very cool and it's very comfortable, especially with a lighter camera. Put that over there. And let's weigh this. This is 20.5 ounces. Let me pick up the little thing. Oh, 20.4 ounces. If I pick them both up, 20.4. It's right on the cusp there. So 20.4 ounces versus 35.7. So 25 versus 36. So that's almost 1.5 times the weight right here. 150% of the weight of this other camera. Well, the new Nikons are mirrorless. So surely they don't have the prism and the bodies are thinner, so they're going to be lighter. They don't have the dual slots, but they have nice sensors in them too. Nothing wrong with that. But they have a new mount. It's the Z mount. And people ask, well, why didn't you just continue with the Nikon mirrorless? I said, well, it's a new mount. I can adapt my old lenses for now, but eventually I'm going to have to buy new lenses, or want to buy the new lenses because of the adapters. I don't know, it's more than 1 inch long, and it just makes it awkward and more front heavy. So why would I do that? So I went looking for a new system, and that's how I stumbled upon this. Actually, I was giving a excuse me, a workshop, and one of the attendees brought this camera, the Olympus OMD, and I was so impressed by the results he got that I decided that this would be my next camera. Small, light, glass is unbelievable. So just for giggles, this is a venerable Nikon, AFS Nikon, 70 to 200 millimeter, 2.8 G2. It's a VR2. Now let's whomp this sucker down here on the scale. That comes in at 56.7 ounces. Holy crap. 56.7 ounces. I'm going to hold that out at the end of your arm for a while. Okay, lovely lens, beautiful, very standard. This is an Olympus lens. This is a 40 to 150 millimeter, but because it's a 2x crop camera on the Micro Four Thirds sensor, you multiply that by 2 for your field of view. So this is essentially an 80 to 300 2.8 all the way through. And this weighs 37.2 ounces. So 37 versus 56. So again, we've got like 160% the weight of functionally the same lens. And look at the difference in size. Look at that. That's pretty impressive. Both of them have the lens hoods retracted or flipped. So that's the actual physical size of the lens. I am kind of blown away by that. Oh! Let me get a crane and move them out of the way. just for giggles, I think probably the most popular lens you're going to see on a professional who's shooting Nikon is this. This is a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. This is not the VR version. This is a regular 2.8G ED. It's a beautiful lens. If you're shooting any kind of events, you must own this lens. And that comes in at 36.3 ounces. Wow. This, and let me flip this around so it looks similar. This is a Panasonic lens actually, but it fits my Micro Four Thirds camera very well. This is also a very high-end piece of glass. It has built-in VR, they call it OIS, Optical Image Stabilization. It is a 12 to 35 millimeter zoom. It is, again, we multiply that by 2, a 24 to 70, what do you know? It's nano-coated, and again, this is a very high-end piece of glass, and that comes in at a whopping 11.9 ounces. 11.9, I'll call it 12. 12 versus 36. This lens is 3 times heavier. 3 times. And look at the size difference on these two. Amazing. And let me tell you, this is gorgeous glass. They are very much equivalent as far as image quality is concerned. There's no way you can jump up and down, and I don't care what you do. They're just as good. One is just as good as the other. Very impressive piece of glass. So that's what I brought out to show you as far as glass is concerned. So we've talked about size, we've talked about weight. Those are the obvious differences between a full frame sensor and a Micro Four Thirds. Here's a full frame sensor, and you've got a mirror, and of course these are mirrorless. But the feature set and the performance on this particular camera are absolutely stunning. We've got all kinds of cool stuff on this camera that you just can't possibly fathom as features you've ever seen on anything in your life. I'll give you an example here. There's what they call live composite, which is, that's kind of crazy. It's kind of a long exposure mode where you take a photograph and it takes everything that's lit, and then it only records after that new light, additional light that's been added. So you wind up with some very, I'm sure I've got a couple examples I can throw up here or whatever, and I'm just experimenting with this. I'm not tremendous at it yet, but you've got some very cool stuff. There's a guy on the webs called Joe Edelman that does really nice work with this particular feature. He is one of the Olympus visionaries, so he has a vested interest in this stuff. I do not. Nobody's paying me for this. I wish they would. Very cool camera. It has, what did I say? Oh yeah, 60 frames a second. Oh, with autofocus, let's not get out of the realm of what you would actually use. With autofocus, full autofocus, you can shoot this camera as high as 18 frames per second. 18 frames per second. That's still rocking fast. That is still tremendous. Unbelievable. Let me tell you, there is a deal going on now, or soon anyway, a trade-in deal where they knock some money off of the list price of this, and then there's a discount, and then on top of that, if you offer a trade-in, you get a trade-in, and there's a discount for getting a trade-in. A very good deal. You could probably pick a brand new body up for about $1,100-$1,200. And then take your trade-in off that, whatever you're trading in. You can get these used in the $1,100 price range, $1,000 to $1,100. Very good buy. They're extremely comfortable. This fits in my hand wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Now, I just last weekend did a shoot at a beauty pageant, and I'll throw up a couple of pictures. Beauty pageant pictures, boop, boop, boop. And all night long I was shooting with this camera and this lens on it. And I got to tell you, I went 6 hours before this started feeling heavy, and I finally had to put it on a tripod. That was very impressive. I would never make it that long with the old D800, but look at this in my hand. All right, see where my fingers go? I got a little more distance here, but look where my fingers go here. It's pretty close to the same. It just fits perfectly. The feel of a camera when you pick it up and how usable it is very important. All of these crazy features on here, and some of them are crazy, things that I could never imagine. It's got all the new stuff on it. You can do HDR. It will do in-camera focus stacking for macro work or landscape work. In-camera, that's what I said, focus stacking. You can do 4K video, really nice 4K video. I'm very impressed by it. We should probably do a sample of the 4K video. So we're going to throw this lens on here. I'm a little uncomfortable. I don't like to expose that sensor for too long. Get that out of there. Right? And we'll shoot a little 4K video here. This is I lost the lens cap for this thing, and now I have this leash. So I think it turned out, rather than helping, it's just punishment for having lost the original lens cap. Okay, so now we're going to put this in video mode. Very much like the Lumix camera. I'm going to turn it on. That's another thing I have to mention. This thing is, look, there's lots of buttons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buttons, 2 wheels, 2 more buttons. Buttons everywhere. There's buttons over here. Another button or 2 hanging around I'm sure I've missed. But let me tell you, you can configure each and every one. You can even move. So some people bitch because this is the on-off switch is on this side. It doesn't bother me because I pick the camera up. I hold it like this, generally speaking, and it's okay. I got used to that. But if you want to, there's another switch back here. You can make that the on-off switch so you can pick it up and fire it up with one hand. There's just all kinds of crazy stuff on here. It has a rocker switch on the back. Absolutely cool stuff. There it is, 4K all the way. Oh, what else is this? Oh, there's all kinds of art modes. Art modes are basically Instagram filters for the LSD crowd. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in there. There's some nice black and whites. It also has a thing called art bracketing. So I can take one photograph, it'll save the RAW if I have it on RAW and JPEG, and then it'll put 16 JPEGs with all the different art filters on them, and I can go pick one later. Would you really use that? I don't know, but you might have it with, you got 2 or 3 if you're doing a creative shoot and you want some suggestions or options for afterwards. It could be cool. These are just a couple of features that are popping in my head. It has video setting, it has art mode setting, it has absolutely stupid person setting for completely auto. It has, of course, P mode for the professionals. I'm just kidding. Aperture, shutter priority, full manual, and it has 3 custom modes, C1, C2, and C3 that you can program. It has an Olympus Hotshoe. I have purchased a Godox remote for this and a couple of Godox lights, AD200s, and a Godox Speedlight that work really, really well. We're going to be doing some studio work with them in the near future. It has in-camera HDR. It also has focus bracketing. It has, let me see, there's about 47 different kinds of bracketing. Let's see what kind of bracketing here so I don't forget any, because very cool kinds of bracketing. Oh, here we go, bracketing. You've got aperture bracketing, white balance bracketing, flash bracketing, ISO bracketing, which is very cool because it'll adjust your ISO instead of changing any of your camera settings. It's very interesting for portraits. It's very fast. Art bracketing, that I told you before, and focus bracketing. Focus bracketing is giving you raw material so that you can go and take those images and focus stack them in post. It also does in-camera focus stacking, which is kind of crazy nuts, wonderful. It just does all kinds of wonderful stuff. I'm not going to go into all the details. There's a million people that will sit there and go through the thing, like read the manual to you. God bless them. I don't have the patience for that. But let me tell you, this is a very nice camera. If you have a specific question, put it down below. But I just had to tell you that I've discovered something that's quite brilliant. And let me tell you, these lenses are beautiful and sharp and work really well. This lens here, brand new now, brand new, is almost twice the price of this one brand new. I don't understand that, but it is. This is 2 stops of VR built into the lens only. This has 5 stops of image stabilization called IS built into the camera, so no matter what lens I put on it, it's image stabilized. And there are a couple of Olympus lenses which will improve that from 5 stops to, I believe, 7 stops, and because they have their own built-in image stabilization that works with the camera. And I believe that it's an f4, I want to say 12 to 100, pretty close, I think. That's a nice lens, but it's an f4. I really wanted faster lenses for shooting indoors at events, and I like a shallower depth of field at faster glass provides me. Let's talk about a couple of myths from Micro Four Thirds. Micro Four Thirds has a terrible shallow depth of field. This is bull. This is a bold-faced lie. I can't, it's 1 stop difference. So what you would get at an f2.8 looks more like what you would get an f4 on a full frame lens, which is just fine in most cases if you know how to control your depth of field. You control it the same way and it works just great. Here's an example. Okay, there it is, example. Noise. Micro Four Thirds cameras are so noisy that they're useless in low light. Okay, here's a picture of some kids at a dance recital. Right now, boom. Oh, look for noise. Oh, there isn't any. It's because if you know how to control noise in any camera, then you know how to control noise in a Micro Four Thirds. If you get the proper exposure, noise isn't an issue. Is it noisier shooting in the dark than a full frame? Yes, it is. I'm not going to lie to you. However, don't shoot in the dark. Hit some frickin' light. Buy a flash. Do something. You're supposed to have light to make photographs, and it's not that hard to do, and get a proper exposure. If you're not underexposing, then noise isn't really an issue. If you're just underexposing and hoping to fix it in post, then you're going to have problems with noise. I don't care what camera you buy. I don't care, you go out and buy an $8,000 Sony or whatever. I don't care. You're still going to have problems with noise. I think they're perfectly fine. It's certainly not any different from this. This is a little older, the D800, and it's perfectly fine. I work fine with it. I have some primes for this as well. I have a 45mm, which works out to be a 90, which is very much like my favorite portrait lens, the 85 on the Nikon side. I'm doing this now because these aren't going to be here too much longer. I'm probably going to trade them in and get a second body. I have the GH4 for a backup now, but I'd much rather have another one of these. This is absolutely the spiffiest camera body I've had in my hand in years. A lot of this naysayers about Micro Four Thirds a lot of it's just simply not true. I'll give you another one that just drives me crazy. Everybody goes, well, if it's a 2x crop factor, that means it only gathers half the light, and you should really be carrying a 2.8 comparing it to a 1.4 on a full. This is bull. And the reason I say this is bull is because it does not affect the exposure. Exposure, in other words, if you're going to take out a light meter and you set it for 2.8 and an aperture and a shutter speed and a sensitivity, your ISO, and you take a reading and you look at it, and that'll give you a setting for your camera. You take that same setting and put it in a full frame camera with a similar lens, a 2.8, let's say, for example, and the settings are going to be the same and the exposure will be the same. Period. All this theoretical gathering of light, if you have a hole this big versus a hole that big, well, theoretically you put more light into it, but the effect on the sensor in the back, because it's spread out versus smaller, is not, it all works out to be null. The difference is null. So, you know, go ahead and do the math, and you will find that there is a difference in the amount of light gathered, but because the surface upon which it is distributed is larger and or smaller, that they actually cancel each other out. That's why the exposure is the same, so it has zero impact on what you're producing as an end product. Anybody that tells you differently is lying. I have no other word for it. There are a lot of naysayers, and people like to dig through these facts of physics and wind them up into something that's supposed to have an impact. It doesn't. It's not. It's just a lie. Remember, full-frame camera manufacturers have a reason to tell you lies about Micro Four Thirds. They don't want you to give up the big cameras that you pay them thousands of dollars for. A brand new D850, which is very similar to this camera with many improvements, is about $3,300, just the body. And I just told you right now there's a deal on, you can get a brand new body here from Olympus for $1,100–1,200 bucks. That's about 1/3 the cost, 1/3 the investment. The lenses cost half as much. And you can make a living off of these. This is professional quality glass. This is a tough, professional body with 2 card slots, which everybody gets in a bunch about. I don't know that it's that important, but I feel more comfortable having them with me in a professional situation where I'm covering an event or covering something that people need to have that assurance that they're going to get the work they paid for. So that's all very important stuff. All right, that's my praise and love gush for the OMD EM1 Mk2. Again, questions, put them below in the place where both bright and charming people and apparently 1 or 2 idiots will show up at the end of this. Oh, I want to say thank you for all the new subscribers. People continually subscribe, even though I'm a little lazy getting to these things lately. You can tell I'm getting way better looking. I've lost a bunch of weight. I had some things going on over the past year. All that's done, so we're in good shape moving forward. I hope to get these a little more frequently. Okay. Again, thank you for subscribing. Anybody that steps in on this and would like to subscribe, hey, go right ahead. You have questions, put them down below. You have comments, put them down below. I try and get through them. Sometimes it takes me a while, but I do get through them and trying to respond. Thank you for all the compliments, and have a good day. Bob Kearns, the unsung photographer. If you sit in the middle of the road and get hit by an airplane, then you're living on an airport. That's what I meant to say. I never get this right. It's on all my emails. It says, even if you're on the right path and you just sit there, then you're going to get run over. So keep moving. Go shoot, go have fun, practice, 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 read, practice, practice. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Shall we begin?